Hello, my name is Myra Tanksley, and I am recording this on May the 22nd, 2018. And I am the proud single mother of a young man with autism. He just turned 25. His name is Marquis. He is being held in a system that is abusing him, neglecting him, and exploiting him. And he has not been allowed to see me in over 3 years, and to call me in over a little bit over a year. I am a single professional registered nurse for 31 years, and I'm also a Christian. And I am African American. I speak out about my son. I have 3 pages of showing proving that my son has been abused, neglected, and exploited by this very corrupt, wicked, racist system. For that, they do not want me to see my son. They know I'm a whistleblower. They know I'm exposing them. No, I haven't been hit legally with anything about slander, because it's not slander if it's true. As I mentioned, I got 3 Facebook pages full of evidence. The first one is called The Abuse and Neglect of Autistic Marquis Tanksley by the Government. The second one is called Justice for Autistic Marquis Tanksley. The third one is called The Audio Tapes of Marquis Tanksley, His Suffering, Abuse, and Neglect. And I am putting recordings, because I tape them because they're corrupt. So I'll tape corrupt people. I don't like doing it, but I will get evidence. That's part of the evidence that I get, besides documents and besides photographs. But I also would, tape recordings, or have recordings of my son, and they're very horrific at times. I don't even like really listening to them over again, because it brings back memories. As a mother, I think, any mother or father that loves their child, especially if they're disabled, but even if they wasn't born with a disability, wouldn't want to hear and see the things that I've seen with my son. He's 25 years old. He wasn't allowed to call me Mother's Day. Last year, right the day before Mother's Day, on May the 13th, 2017, was the last time he was allowed to call me. Now, if he doesn't call me, it's not because he doesn't want to. He misses me. He loves me. He adores me. That's part of his emotional pain, being separated from his mother. Also, he tells me about incidences of abuse and neglect. But then I would be able to see it, too, when I go over there with the unexplained scars, the unexplained injuries, the signs of neglect, the signs of, like I said, abuse. I would buy him or bring him just all kind of new sets of clothes. They wouldn't even let my son even wear the clothes that I brought up to him, And as a mother, I know I'm a victim in this thing too, because I love my child just as much as the corrupt, wicked, racist people in the system love their kids. And but as a black woman, black mother, I'm supposed to be in silent mode. But I am a Christian. I know God's got this thing handled, because there's only things that only God can handle. When you got a whole army, a whole system full of sick, racist, wicked, evil people, it takes God to put that down. And if Marquis wants to, well, I know he wants to come home, but if God wants Marquis to be back home, he coming back home. I did have guardianship for my with my son, but they took it away. They had an evil, corrupt Jewish lawyer. He's deceased now. That filed a bogus motion to take my guardianship away, to have me removed as guardian. And he was saying I wouldn't consent. Well, I'm a registered nurse. Now, I believe in assessments, evaluations. I even do assessments. And so it was a lie. And I have him on audio tape, a recording of our phone conversation, telling me that he had made a mistake when he went down there and filed a motion to remove me as a guardian so that he could sign the consent. He didn't know I had already signed it. But within a year, he was dead and gone. And the Lord let me know that this man was dead and gone by getting a newspaper at Walmart. And usually I don't subscribe to the newspaper, and I usually don't even buy it, but something turned me around in the store and made me go get it. And there was his name at the top of the obituary list. His name was David Belinkie, a very corrupt, evil lawyer that thought he was unstoppable and all powerful because this man was bragging to me. And like I said, I got it on audio tape. Go to my YouTube channel, which I do have a YouTube channel. You can find it on my YouTube channel, and I think I have it on the justice page. How this man, because God hates corruption and injustice, and he would brag about abusing people in court, but he was also very arrogant. God hates pride or arrogance. And this man died like within a year of me talking to him. And the thing about it that I'll never forget is that when I was talking to him, I felt this warm, burning, it wasn't warm, it was hot, burning anger. And I'm going like, what is this? Is this the Holy Spirit? But I knew it wasn't towards me and it wasn't coming from me because I was trying to be civil with the guy because, you know, he was the guardian ad litem. But he went ahead and abused his power and filed a motion that had me removed as a guardian. And probate court, I mean, all the court, the agencies, the lawyers, the magistrates, the judges, the court investigators, the clerks, the secretaries, all them people are corrupt. They all work in concert with each other. And Erin Sanford is my son's limited guardian. And she's a pathological liar. She's racist. She's evil. She now works with the Nye Law Group. And she's making more money off him than anybody else because she gets his SSI money. And he lives in a rundown, tiny, little Section 8 townhome in a terrible Section 8 neighborhood. And that thing is so small, that dwelling is so small, you can walk into the back door and take 10 steps and you can see the front door. And I can prove it too because I got pictures of it. Any door, whether you go to the front door or the back door, you take 10 steps, you're going to be at the other door. And the staff is abusive. They're incompetent. Every time I go by there, I never seen the same staff. They sit out and smoke, and they leave the doors open all the time. So how would you like to be living in a dwelling and, you know, bugs and insects are allowed to come in and stuff? And I had some ignorant girl on the Facebook page said, well, when you go out in the air, there's insects. Yeah, when you go out, but you don't want that in your house. I wouldn't want it in my house. There's a lot of things when you go out the door you have to deal with. All kind of different people, you know, in the store or wherever you go, or on you know, walking in the drive-in or any place outside in a restaurant. But you don't want to bring that stuff in your house. Your house is a different, you know, area where you should have peace and comfort and stuff. I said, I know he don't want all them bugs and flies flying in. I said, inside your house? So I just bumped her and banned her off that page. I said, because I don't go tit for tat with ignorant racists. But I believe this chick was black, you know. But whether you're ignorant or you're racist or you're, you know, I just don't go back and forth. I thought that was a very ignorant statement. That's why I know you have insects. So why would you want them in your house? I don't want all the stuff that's outside, including the bugs and the birds. I don't want them in my house. Outside, yeah, you could expect that to see a bird flying around or mosquito. If you go to the park, yeah. I said, but the park is not your house. But they'll leave those doors open and stuff and let all them insects and everything fly all in the little tiny dwelling. But, you know, and I live I've been blessed, you know, I live in a nice house, and I got all Marquis' stuff here. I got a lot of stuff that the Lord has blessed him with. Because just because somebody treats you bad don't mean you deserve it. He ain't going through what he's going through because he deserves it. My son is autistic. He hasn't done anything to anybody, but look how they treated Jesus. There's some very evil, sick, wicked people in this world that got biases and prejudice. They're full of hate, and you know, they'll mistreat. There's some people that have been in this world, live in this world, and they have been treated like animals. But God will use people that other people count out, because to them, he's nothing. You know, he's just a black male with a disability. That's a cash cow, because the state of Ohio is making money off him too, because that little dwelling. And it's in a terrible neighborhood. It's owned by the state of Ohio, but the neighborhood is so bad they got a black metal gate around it, and it's surrounded by alleys full of, you know, garbage and trash. Oh, it's just terrible. But they don't want me to see the primary reason because I'm a whistleblower. They know I collect evidence. And like I said, nobody's going to send any letters saying cease and desist and all that kind of stuff because I ain't slandering them. It ain't slander when it's true. So what I'm doing, and like I said, I do have a YouTube channel, plenty of audio videos. I call them audio videos because I never put, video on there. I basically have it just audio, and then it's a blank screen. But I do have, the last time I actually seen my son, the last time we were able to visit, or allowed to visit, by Sanford, was May the 15th, 2015. Then the last time I actually seen Marquis was July the 8th, 2015. That's because of my own efforts. I knew he was leaving that day because he had told me, and I waited outside. That's how I seen him. Now, that's on videotape, and it's heart-wrenching because they manipulated my son and tried to make him go off on me after he wouldn't do that. Some big, fat, nasty lady, one of the caseworkers, whatever, took my son across the street and tried to make him go off on me and told him to ask me what I came there for. Now, what I came there for. And he had never said that to me. He has never, and he didn't really say it initially, because when he, that day when he came across the street with them, I was still sitting in my car. And he said, there's my mom. And there's plenty of good audio. You could hear the audio. You could hear the audio of him. You could hear the audio of me. You could definitely see the video because it was daytime. But that was the last time that I'd seen him. And then after he said that, he said, you know, I love you. I miss you a long time. He wanted me to stay with him. So that videotape is on the, well, it's in the YouTube channel, but I think it's on the audio. No, it's not on the audio tape page. It's on the abuse and neglect page. Because I got 3 pages, a justice page, abuse and neglect page, and an audio tape page. But it's definitely, like, all my audio videos that I upload to Facebook is in that YouTube channel. So you could definitely go to the YouTube channel and see it. But I think it's on the abuse and neglect page. But it was heart-wrenching because my son begged me not to leave him and asked me could I go with him. And then I said, well, you have to go where you're going, because he was going to counseling that was initiated by the U.S. Department of Education after I filed a complaint against the Columbus School District because they were, traumatizing Marquis and throwing him in a seclusion closet and restraining him. And that's what they ordered the school district to do, besides giving him compensatory education. So he said, well, I want to see your face this evening and stuff, because he hadn't seen me for 3 months. But I said, I hope these idiots ain't trying to retaliate against me just because I'm a whistleblower. I said, because God is in me and Marquis's corner. And he don't lose no battles. He's with me and Marquis. That's the only reason why Marquis has survived. Is because of God being with him. Because he's going to suffer some horrendous assault and abuse and being restrained and traumatized and terrorized. And I said, you don't want to be in God's way. You don't want to try to outbox God. But he's in me and Marquis's corner. We're not in this thing by ourselves. And if he wants God, Marquis to come back home, and when it's time for Marquis to come back home, they better hope they're not in the way. I said, because God showed me he took care of that attorney, David Belinkie. Because something spun me around Walmart, made me get that paper. And then when I opened it up and finally read it, and I usually don't go to the obituaries, there's certain sections of the paper I won't go in. I'm just, I'm not interested in reading we used to call it funnies, but they call it the cartoon comic section. But we used to call it funnies. But I don't go in that section. I mean, there's just certain parts of the paper that I never read. And obituaries is usually one of them. But that day, he made me open the paper to the obituary. And that man's name was at the top of the list. And the Lord spoke to me. And he said, vengeance is mine, I will repay. He said, you don't have to worry about your enemies. I'll take care of your enemies. I'll make them your footstool. So ain't no use trying to retaliate against me, because if God wants Marquis back home, which I believe that he doesn't want me as a mother, because I'm a victim in this thing, to never see my son again, or him to live his life out being abused and neglected and suffering and yearning for his mother and stuff, I don't believe that's what Jesus wants for us. I just really, really don't believe that. And if he wants Marquis to come back home, he's going to come back home. But I've seen God, it's just a miracle that Marquis ain't been killed or anything like that. Because this has been going on for a few years now. But like I said, I'm a victim in this thing. And I don't know what I would do without Jesus. But that's my hope, that's my anchor, and that's my victory. That's a guaranteed victory. I said, because I ain't just going to walk away. I said, what, I'm supposed to forget about my son? And I did file a motion. They got some evil magistrate that they want you to talk to, because this guy likes to discourage certain people from filing legal work. And I said, well, I'm not going to file for reappointment of guardianship. Do that way. I'm going to file for it in a motion. Because back in September, I filed a complaint against Sanford. Because the way that my son was being abused and neglected and exploited and stuff, it went nowhere. Because probate court is the one that appointed her. All these people are rotten and corrupt. And it's a very racist system. And I'll tell you right now why I say it's racist. They slander Marquis too. I say, anytime you lie on an autistic, disabled person, and besides abuse and neglect and exploit them, you're the lowest of the low. But they have always said that I escalated my son. So I'm going like, well, so when these white kids or teens or adults with autism are having, meltdowns or violent or aggressive behaviors, so who's to blame for that? I said, I know they ain't telling, like that old nasty woman that thought she was going to have that. Her son is autistic, but they helped her. And she thought she was going to open up this thing at this academy. And it opened, and the Lord shut it down within a year because she just wasn't right. But, she's on the board with the Autism Society, and they ain't had no kind of support for me and my son. That's a very racist community. Just go to their Facebook pages. That's the first pages I went to when I joined Facebook. And you will see what they feature on there. I said, autism is not about little white kids getting treatments and therapies. I said, it's everybody gets autism. It's from all different kind of backgrounds. But that's all you see on those autism pages. And I'm talking about these real national, like the Autism Speak or Autism Society. And there's tons of autistic or autism organizations that got Facebook pages. And there's no support for the black families. And locally either. But, I didn't know they were that racist and stuff. And yes, I went through the pages and actually told them about what's going on with Marquis and stuff. Nothing from the creators, nothing from the community. They don't care nothing about, black people, black families. But they always had said I escalated my son. I said, well, so when the white kids are having meltdowns or aggressive behaviors, at home and stuff, along with their, they're living with their families and parents, are y'all telling these white mothers and fathers that they escalate their son? But you going to tell the black mother that. But, when you look at racism, and Jesus had to come back and clean it up, it's real simple. Because if you don't think anybody's worth anything, you're going to treat them like they're not worth anything. When you see black people treated the way they are, and racism is the same situation, but the black person is going to be treated negatively and differently. But if you don't think anything of that person, that's why Jesus talked about the first commandment, the greatest of all, is love God with all your heart, mind, body, soul, and spirit. But the second one, he said, is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. But if you think you're this black person who is actually your neighbor, go back to the Good Samaritan parable and see how Jesus tries to correlate that. This man was different, but he's still your neighbor. Go and do likewise. But my point is that when you think somebody's not worth anything, you're going to treat them like they're not worth anything. You don't care about their life. You don't care about their rights. You know, you're second on the total pole. You don't have no rights. You know, we don't care if we take your life or we take your rights. Because like I said, as a mother, I'm a victim in this thing. My family rights have been trampled on. It's not just Marquis, mine as a mother. I said, because I love my son just as much as they love their kids. That's why I said I will never stand up for another flag. I said, because I'm at that age, because I would stand up for it, but I wouldn't recite it because I couldn't say the words. The last time I was at an event was my son's bowling tournament. And I stood up for it, but I couldn't say that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness and justice for all. I just couldn't say it because it's not true. It ain't never been true in this country since 1776. But now I won't even stand up for it. I said, because he ain't got no life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and he can't even see his own mother. And I don't either. I said, the Lord done blessed me. Everything I got, the Lord gave it to me. The credit all goes to God. In spite of everything, God gave me what I have. They sure ain't gave it to me. But I said, how in the world can I, I said, he ain't got he's been abused, assaulted, stolen from. Nobody has done anything about it. I mean, actual crimes committed against him, and nobody has ever done anything about it. But he ain't nothing to them being a black male disabled. Well, black people ain't nothing. That's the reason why they treat, when you don't think somebody's got any worth, you'll treat them that way. Your rights don't mean anything to them. Your opinion, please don't say the word racism. And not all white people are racist. I will say that. That's why you got some of them out there marching. You'll see some of them out there marching with Black Lives Matter, and which I understand. I understand the term Black Lives Matter. It don't look like it matters when you're out there shooting these guys and killing them like dogs, and because their life ain't worth a piece of dung meat to you. Just like my son's rights ain't nothing, and my rights as a mother. I said, I'm just as much, if not a better mother than any of these white mothers. But, I don't have any kind of worth that it doesn't matter where I see my son or not. And that's your racism. But I said, I know they ain't telling these white parents that they escalate their son and daughter. And they would say it all the time. I said, well, when I come over here after y'all done, because he's in y'all's so-called care, in y'all's facility or environment, around your staff. And when I would get over there, he'd be so agitated and traumatized and scared and angry because of the way they were treating him and restraining him. He has a right to vent to his mother. I would be venting to my mother too if I was treated like that. But they would say, I said, well, my son is not telling me to leave or angry at me. He's venting to me, not because of me. But he's venting to me because of the way y'all have treated him. Maybe if you didn't treat him like an animal, then maybe he wouldn't say that. But they treat him worse than an inmate. I said, even these inmates get family calls and family visits and all this kind of stuff. But God's going to straighten this thing up. Because he told me he was. I just had to stay faithful, and I had to lean on him every day and get that peace. Because God said, I got this thing handled. But I found that motion. And like I said, they got this magistrate down there, and he just mean as he can be. Because I had talked to him one time before when I wanted to make a complaint. He told me parents don't have any standing. But this time the Lord said, bypass that and file it. So it was stamped, and I got a copy of it, and we'll see what comes out of it, how the Lord wants to do it. Not that God needs any help, because God already got the thing handled. But sometimes he works through certain connections, and sometimes he doesn't. But I said, well, that's my due process. I have a right to come down here and file a motion. And I'm filing on behalf of my son and me. But it's got stamped, filed in probate court of Franklin County, Ohio. So what I am doing is making recordings, and I got many, 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 many more to go. I'm only in 2012. This is from November 27, 2012. And it's a visit with Marquis at the Columbus Developmental Center, which is a very corrupt, abusive state of Ohio operated and ran developmental center. And the agency that runs it is the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, but they call it Columbus Developmental Center. And they had been restraining Marquis all day long. So I went ahead and went to visit him. And of course, when I get there, after he's been traumatized and terrorized and it's too noisy and restrained and abused by the staff, because they didn't know how to work with him, you know. I have yet to see really anybody that know how to really work with Marquis, because they didn't know about autism. And if they knew, then I wouldn't hear and see the things that I have heard and seen. I said, you can't just rush up to my son like that, you know, with the, you know, the sensory integration problems and sensory overload. You know, I knew they didn't know nothing about autism. And it was just triggering. They didn't know its triggers. And I tried to help the state facility out. I gave them a trigger list. Girl didn't even want to hear anything about it until 48, 72 hours later. I said, yeah, but y'all need to know this now. Y'all need to know what kind of triggers he has as an autistic resident. But I've seen it in hospitals. I've seen it with law enforcement, you know, where people don't know nothing about autism. And all they do is escalate them. And then by the time, you know, he's, you know, crying and wanting to hit the walls, or he gets real angry and might start spitting or something like that, they think he's misbehaving or acting out or trying to be tough. You know, but people don't know how to work with them, how things can set them off, including themselves, you know. I had to tell a guy that in ER. I said, well, you did not see, now you just made it worse. I said, you can't approach him like that. Autistic people can't. And then, of course, you know, when you're throwing them in seclusion closets and restrain them, it just traumatizes them more. It's not going to deter them because of disability. But it's just simple. You need to know how to work, train your staff to work with the type of disability that person has. And see, that place was the ICF-MR facility, Intermediate Care Facility for the Mentally Retarded. And mentally retarded or mental retardation is about as different from autism as a letter alphabet. I said, because a lot of MR people don't have sensory integration problems where you could set off an autistic person just like that with a lot of noise. But they are very sensitive with all their senses, visual, the taste, the touch, all of that. Hearing, the sight, you know, you just, everything. So if your staff ain't trained, that's half the problem. Then the other half is the personality of the staff. I wouldn't, most of those people, I wouldn't let them take care of my dog if I had one. Because if they don't have the personality, you got to have patience. You got to have a kind of special personality to deal with somebody that might have and do behaviors that you don't understand. You had to, you know, you can't be hollering at them, think they're going to understand you, and it just was awful. I said they were unfit, they were abusive, they were incompetent. And then you have a lot of these native Africans. I said, how in the world do they expect someone like my son to be able to understand them? I said, with the thick accents. I said, they barely could speak clear English. I can't even understand. I know my son couldn't understand them. So it was just a big, and I'll take any scum in the system on. I said, because I'm just not intimidated by sick, evil, racist people, because I know God can handle them. Because God will fight your battles. What we can't do, He'll do. And I got evidence. Like I said, I don't have to worry about anybody saying, oh, you're just full of hot air. Because I got too much evidence. And it ain't all the evidence that I have. But like I said, it's a very sick, wicked, evil, racist system. And like I said, all white people ain't racist. That's why you got some of them out there marching with Black Lives Matter or, you know, civil rights issue. Because they're not in denial. They can acknowledge, you know, that racism is in this country. It's been that way since 1776. A lot of, not all of them, but the majority of white people are racist. Or they benefit from them. And they don't even like to, if you say the word race or racism or anything close, it tickles their ears. They don't even want to hear it because they can't acknowledge it. It's just something that they can't stand to even hear anybody else talk about because they can't acknowledge it themselves. Like I said, not all of them, but the majority of them. You say racism or Martin Luther King or something like that, and they're ready to call you racist and stuff because they're in denial. But this country's in denial by a lot of things. I said they deny Jesus Christ. Some people do, but when you got a person that can't accept the truth, then ain't no law gonna change that because that person's heart needs to be changed by Jesus. That's why you got civil rights law, affirmative action, all that stuff was needed, but it hasn't really helped everybody because that person's got a sick heart that needs to be changed by Jesus' love. He has to come in there and wipe that clean. You can't change, prejudice and racism with laws because it comes from the heart. And it's an evil, evil thing that's in the heart. So anyway, what I'm doing is on the audio tape page, I am putting recordings of my son. And this one is from, like I said, November 27, 2012. And I went to visit my son at the Columbus Developmental Center after he was restrained. And he tells me that he was sad, and I asked him why. He said they put him down in a restraint. And I said, why? He said he doesn't know why they're restraining him. And then he said he sucked. And that would just tear my heart apart, besides everything else. I bet you wouldn't want to come and see your son or daughter, especially if they're just able to tell you this stuff. But they used to make him think that he was an animal or that he was a criminal because they were telling him misbehaving. So he thought he did something wrong. I said, no, you didn't. You don't suck. And it just tears my heart up. But I would plead and tell him, you don't suck. You're a wonderful young man. And one day he'll understand, because after God brings him back home and use him and take him to his destiny, he'll be telling people about that. I know I will. You don't have to do wrong for evil, sick, racist people to mistreat you. Because you think about the lynchings, and I don't care about the racist white scum out there that can't stand it and stuff, because it happened. It was reality. There was a lot of especially black men that lost their life, and they were innocent. They were lynched and tortured and mutilated and hung, and most of them probably was innocent. So you ain't, just because somebody mistreats you, don't mean that you deserve it. Look at the way they did Jesus, and yet he was without sin. He was God's son, but he did it for our sins, but they executed him like a criminal. They number him with the transgressors, the Bible says. And just like with my guardianship, just because somebody does something to you don't mean you deserve it. As long as you got wicked, evil people in this world, then there's going to be some suffering. And it could be by people that don't deserve it. And then Jesus will come and put them in their place. And I mean place. When I say place, there is a place. And then he'll clean up everything else. So I only got 60 minutes to do this. So let me go ahead and tell you, like I said, when I arrived over there, because I was his guardian, and see, they had to get that guardianship away from me because they don't want a parent like me to be the guardian. Because now, anything happened to him, they don't have to tell me. I don't know if my son is still over there where they last put him. I mean, he could have had surgery or anything, and they don't have to tell me. So they love to get that guardianship away from you. But at that time was the guardian, and they had told me that he was restrained. So I went over there to visit him, and he told me he was restrained. He didn't know why, and that he sucked, and it breaks his heart. He also was angry because it traumatized him. I found a cut on his finger, and he didn't really want to discuss it because, I mean, his emotions was just spent. I mean, they physically abused my son, but they emotionally abused my son too. Besides the neglect. He wanted me to go home, and then he got to hollering, this place sucks. And then that trash named Matt Hoffman came in there and said something to him and stuff. I'm going like, well, maybe if you all didn't treat my son like scum, when I'm not here, or why he's here, maybe he wouldn't be saying that, because Marquis wanted me to know his feelings, and he made sure he told his mother what was going on, and they hated that. But he would be so angry, I mean, it just. But God knows how he has suffered, and he said, I'm gonna. And I know he's going to show himself strong and proud in this situation. That's why I filed that motion. And I said, God might not even work through that, but I'm going to see what they do with it, because that's my due process. That's my due process. But they got some evil magistrate to try to discourage you, but I didn't talk to him this time, because he'll tell you ain't got no legal standing and everything. Certain people and stuff, if they don't want you to do anything or use any legal documents, that's what you have to go through him. I said, I ain't thinking about what that magistrate. I said, because he's part of a corrupt system. Because when I walk in that courtroom, I could just, not the courtroom, but the courthouse, but especially that court, I could just feel the demons. I could discern spirits. And I felt them at other places too, where the people are just so evil that you can feel the demonic activity. But anyway, so he said that he wanted to leave. And then he told me that they put him on the floor and cover his face with a towel. And then towards the end of the visit, because they wouldn't let me visit him in his living quarters or the room, because they know I could hear all the noise and see all the dirt and how the staff played around and roam around on the different units. And so they made him always come out to visit me in the administration building. So like I said, I've been treated kind of bad too. Not as bad as my son and stuff. I said, but I'm going to tell it all. I'm going to tell it all. And I'll take on ain't none of the lawyers can take me on. Because I got too much evidence. And I got God on my corner. He tells me what to do. But not to toot my own horn, but God knows who he can use. And he knows he's in this mother gets evidence. And it can't be taken back. And you really can't deny it unless you're racist and corrupt and blind, deaf, and dumb. But other than that, you can't deny evidence and proof. But he told me that, and I forgot he had told me that. Just like I forgot that time he told me on the other tape that the staff had put nasty music in his ear to try to make him ejaculate. And see, Marquis has never heard that word from me or anybody else. But how did he hear and was able to say the ejaculate word? So they must have been saying that to him for a long time. And I was just appalled when I heard it on the tape. But he said they put him on the floor, covered his face with a towel. Then that Matt came in, the staff member wanted to see if Marquis was ready to walk to the van. That means the visit was over. And right when he said that, Marquis looked at me immediately and says that he misses me. Because he always gets scared and frightened and fearful when it was time for us, to separate. When it was time for if the visit was over and it was time for me to leave him, he would always get so fearful because he would have to go back into a hellhole. That's why I said, forgive me, Lord. Vengeance is yours and stuff. Take, the bitterness and the hate out of my heart. But I want to see you when you deal with these people. And sometimes that could be the David Belinkie way, because that man was so evil, God just took him off the planet. And sometimes God just moved people over. But I would tell people, you don't want to be in God's way when he makes that move, because then he will run over you. But I've read the Bible 3 times all the way through, and I'm reading all the way through again. And you'll see how God deals with people, governments, nations, anybody. He got different ways where he'll deal with you. But, you can't outbox him. You can't defeat him. But if you are not in God's will, like if these people try to fight against Marquis coming back home, and God says he come back home, he's got his ways to deal with that. And you wonder why sometimes somebody like David Belinkie, all of a sudden they're dead and gone. Just that quick. Because he died, he wasn't in the hospital, he died unexpectedly at home. And the Bible tells you God will deal with people in different ways. He humbles people. Some people will put their light out. Some people will just move them aside. Or do something else. Or, something else will happen and stuff. But God can get angry. You don't want God angry with you. But he's not happy with the way Marquis has been treated and the way I've been treated. And Marquis ain't being punished by God, and neither am I. But God will take this for a testimony. He'll use this. And when the time comes, you know, he said, pray for your enemies. Because when you make God angry, he can destroy you. You bring that whole system down. So, it's in his hands. But I'll see what they do with this motion. And then I was telling him as we walked to the van, I love you. I miss you. And God loves you. And he said, even your brother? I said, yeah, because I have a brother named Mikey. His name is Michael. We call him Mikey. And he said, I said, yeah, Uncle Mikey. And he said, oh, I miss Uncle Mikey, man. And then I left. And then later on, I got a call around 7:30 p.m. that Marquis had been restrained. Well, had been floored. And I said, floored? What kind of term is that? At 5:45 p.m. So let me go ahead and let you hear this. I apologize. This is on a micro cassette. Probably after 10 tapes, it'll be clearer because I'll be using my computer, my laptop computer, for the ones that I have had taped on a smartphone or cell phone. But this one is micro cassette, so it's still a little, it's not that clear. But you can still, you know, make out what it's saying. That's why I usually tell what's on there and stuff. But this is November 27, 2012. I think at the end of February or early March 2013, I start taping our conversations. I start using a smartphone so they'll be clearer. So here we go with this. Here we go. So what's so bad about it is that after I had the visit and I had calmed Marquis down, and he was saying that he felt happy at the end of the visit while we were walking to the van, and I was telling him I loved him, God loves him. And he said, your brother? And I said, yeah, Uncle Mikey. Right after he went over there, here they had to floor him, probably meant restrain him, because they led him right back into the same environment. And I think he said that there was an incident with another resident. So he had to go right back over there and get all, you know, overloaded. Probably another resident or staff, you know, agitating him. The noise probably got him overloaded, and they had to put him down on the floor again. They just didn't know how to care for my son. But I don't get blamed for that when Marquis would, start yelling and crying and telling me about it. I said, well, how can you blame me for something? He's here. He's in your facility, in your care. Maybe if you didn't treat my son worse than an animal, then he wouldn't be telling me this stuff. That's the way I felt about it. I said, because he ain't telling me. He begging me to take him home and telling me how much he misses me and loves me. He's not telling me, Mom, get out of here, or Mom, you hit me, or stuff. He's saying y'all hit him and restrained him and made him scared. And you heard that he said it was noisy. He has always told me that the place is noisy. But I'm going to let you hear it again. But he has always told me, that it's always noisy. And autistic people don't like a lot of noise. It puts them in a sensory overload. He's always told me how much he missed me and begged me to take him out of there. And he'll say the place sucked. But sometimes they make him feel so bad while they were restraining him that he would say, I suck. I said, you don't suck. But I had one of the incompetent, abusive staff members that didn't know nothing about autism. Well, Marquis wouldn't get on the van one time when he misbehaved. I said, he is not misbehaving. And because usually I don't like to get them together in front of my son. I'll go to their corrupt investigator because the everything about that system is corrupt. And they're very evil. There's a lot of racism going on. They're very abusive. And they'll hire anybody. But when I heard that, I said, well, this guy doesn't know anything about autism. I said, he's not getting on the bus because he wants to act out or he's misbehaving. He's not getting on the bus because he's scared of it. Because of the way, because Marquis would say, I don't want to get on that bus because the way they back out and the bus was old and raggedy and jerked. And it scared them when they would back out. They weren't backing out slow enough. And with it being all cranky and raggedy, when they back up, it would scare him. Maybe because of the way it fell and the direction or the speed. But anyway, that's the reason why he didn't want to get on the van. This idiot said he was misbehaving. I said, he's not misbehaving. You people need to get training and understand that when he's doing what he's doing, and probably 99% of the other autistic individuals, they're doing what they're doing because of their disability, not because they're trying to act out and they want to fight with you and all that kind of stuff. Just like that D. Michael Snow, that prejudiced racist he's a white guy, old white man. He said that Marquis was trying to get his staff in trouble. I said, well, autistic people, even the high functioning ones like my son, they don't sit around and try to get people in trouble. They just don't have the cognitive ability. He ain't sitting up there trying to say, oh, I'm going to get John, and Susie Q, and Mary Jane, and Robert all in trouble. They just don't do that. But that's what he would say. Because, I would tell them, and I got tapes of them. I just don't have tapes of Marquis. I have plenty of tapes. That's why I say if any scummy lawyer want to go up against me, that's why I say I ain't going to get no letter about no slander, because it's not slander when it's true. I would tell them, give me probably 3 months to get all my stuff together. Because I got so much tapes. Hundreds of tapes and pictures. Court documents, you name it. I'm an evidence girl. But that's what he would say. That Marquis trying to get his staff in trouble. I said, well, somebody need to educate this old filthy old white man. Because autistic people or mentally retarded people don't sit up and try to, get staff in trouble. And that's why I don't have nothing to do with Disability Rights Ohio hardly anymore. And I should have I shouldn't have nothing to do with them when they forged my name on there when they want to go after Columbus City Schools. Because it was a black school district with a black, urban school district with a black superintendent. But that's what he said. He said that, Marquis was trying to get his staff in trouble. And then when I told Disability Rights Ohio, about it, which back then it was Ohio Legal Rights Services. But when I told them about disability rights, Ohio, uh, not going after this thug that Marquis told me that he threw him down on the ground and was hitting him in the head, and so did a white MR, because he wasn't autistic. I think he was like mild, mentally retarded. His name was Danny, and I think Danny, he was white, and I think he probably was in his 30s. And he came up to me twice to tell me that he actually witnessed, he actually seen a Marquis getting thrown down to the, I got it on tape. You can go to the YouTube channel and check it out. And he whispered to me, Bobby threw my son down. Marquis called him Robert, but Danny had been there for a long time. And I sent this tape to Disability Rights Ohio, and they never did anything because it was a state facility. It depends on who it is before these people go after you. And I got it on tape, Danny telling me that he seen Marquis throw that boy down to the floor, and was punching Marquis all in the head and everything. But that I seen this big, fat, nasty black guy named Rochelle. That's the guy that hit Marquis in the chest. Got it on tape. And that was God, because God had me a place where I could see him and he couldn't see me. Because when you got dealing with a Christian, you got to be careful, because God will do supernatural things. Just like he parted that Red Sea and the Egyptians wasn't inspected. Even the Israelites wasn't inspected. But God can do things like that. Supernatural things will occur in the natural, because you're dealing with a Christian. But I seen him hit my son in the chest, and it's on tape. The guy wasn't going to say, yeah, I've hit him on the chest, but he did admit to assaulting my son in another way. Because he said, no, I grabbed him by his shirt, which is an assault in itself. And you can hear him saying that. You can hear me on there. You can hear this thug on there. You can hear Marquis on there. He said, I know, I grabbed him by the shirt. But he punched Marquis in the chest. Then he grabbed him by the shirt and threw him in the state Ohio van. December 1st, 2012. And that tape is coming up too. But I already made a big audio video of it. And I think it's got like 5,000 views on YouTube. But, you know, I'm doing this numerical all the way up to the last time I talked to my son. So I will be making another one. I'll probably just use the same one. But I'm going to let you hear this one more time so that, because I'm about ready to run out of time. And, you know, it's not clear, but just kind of listen closely. You'll hear Marquis say that they put him in restraints. He said, they put me in restraints. I asked him why. He said he didn't know why they restrained him. He said, this place sucks. He said he wants to leave. He said, because it's noisy. He also said his room was cold when I asked him, was it warm? Then he said they put him on the floor and covered his fucking face. They put him down on the floor and covered his face. And when he said, you want to walk to the van, Marquis, he said, I miss you right now. He looked at me, getting sad because he had to leave. His mother was leaving him. He had to go back to the hellhole. Phone call telling me Marquis was floored. So there you have it. And I kind of try to tell you, what he was saying, because I know it wasn't that clear to hear. But he wasn't allowed to call me for Mother's Day. Last time he was allowed to call me was last year, May the 13th, 2017. And the last time he was allowed to visit with his own mother has been over 3 years ago, and that was March the 15th, 2015. July the 8th, 2015 was when I waited outside and see my son, and, they still got him on Thorazine, the largest dosage. He's supposed to be off of that. They don't even prescribe Thorazine for true schizophrenics anymore. It's not hardly ever prescribed. They put him on a high dosage of lithium, made him gain so much weight. And I'm praying that God has kept his weight under control. Because he's on lithium, then he has to take cogentin because of side effects. So he's just, because they don't want me to see him, because they no telling what kind of shape he's in. But I just have to pray to God that God has still, because the Lord told me, I'm God. They can't limit my power. And I can keep your son. I can heal your son. I can protect your son no matter where he's at. Because I'm God. And I think about the story of Joseph, how God protected him when he was going through the wilderness before he brought him out and put him to the palace. So we have to remember that. I have to remember that God is with my son. He said, because they can't stop me and limit my power. And when I said time for them to come home, pray for them. He said, because I will, because you don't want to make God angry. But that's not God's will for me to have to go through the rest of my life not seeing my son. Because I ain't going to walk away. I ain't going to forget about it. I still buy my son gifts. There's a closet full of gifts in there. Clothes, games, you name it. That I've been buying him throughout these years that he's been away from me. I'm not going to walk out, or walk away from my son. And I'm not going to give up on God. I'm not going to give up on God. I'm expecting him to do what he says he's going to do and bring Marquis back home. And I don't think he wants Marquis to live his life out like that. Because I don't know anybody that has suffered. I told my older brother that. Has suffered the way my son has suffered. And, for him to be disabled, have autism. He ain't done nothing to nobody. I said, but they have abused him in every kind of way. I said, emotionally, physically, they ignore his needs as an autistic individual. He's been abused, physically, mentally, emotionally. And when he would say, I suck, because he's trying to make, why am I being treated like that? I said, you don't suck. But God can use you mightily. And, because we would pray all the time. And I don't believe God, because my feeling is that the destiny for not just me, but especially Marquis, is that God wants to use him in a spiritual way. That what he has went through will help other people. It'll be a testimony to God's greatness and his amazing power and mercy. That's my feeling. I don't believe that this is me and Marquis' destiny. And God will end it. Might be soon. But his time is not our time. But God will end it in the way that he wants to end it and in a time. Marquis, I love you. I miss you. I'm proud to be your mother. Hang on in there. Jesus loves you. Yeah, Uncle Mikey loves you too. And I love you. And God's got this. I found emotion, but God has already got a handle. I'm not going to walk away from you. I love you more than ever. I'm not going to give up on you. And I'm sure not going to give up on God. Because me and you serve a God that can part the Red Sea, that created the world, that could just slap his finger and anything can happen occur. There's nothing too hard for God. And with God, all things is possible. Hang on in there, Marquis. I love you. Your mom. And thank you for listening.